Welcome to the CX Pod, where we aim to expand people's perception of customer experience management. We know that customer experience goes hand in hand with employee experience, and we believe that a broader and more holistic view might even replace terms like CX and EX with people experience or human experience.
Hey, good morning and welcome to the CX Pod again. Hope you have a great day out there to the listeners. And I'm here with Joanna and I'm here with Sirte, and I'll get back to you guys in a minute. But this is Merete speaking. As always, I get sort of like the honor of introducing us most of the time. I don't know exactly why that is, Joanna, but maybe we should swap roles for this season. So we are now heavily, we'll see. Yeah, you know me, right? So I just wanted to say, and yes, I'm bragging. I started my day this morning at SATS. So at the gym, I was giving a spinning class, and I am just, filled with endorphins and so excited about our guest today. So welcome, Sirte, and welcome, Joanna. We'll get back to you, Sirte. Joanna, how was your morning?
Yeah, my morning was great. Not quite as energetic as yours, but no, it's quite on top of the world. Quite on top of the world. I'm saving the spinning or the running for later on in the day. So I'm not the morning person that you are.
But it is Friday, and that gives us
It's
a great
Friday.
sort of, yeah.
And the sun's shining. And in the north, when the sun shines on a Friday.
Especially in the winter.
Yeah. We're set for a good weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah. Hello to all the listeners, and hello, Sirte. It's great to see you again and get you as a guest on our podcast.
Thank you. How do we say good day in Finnish, Joanna?
No, you're taking that one.
So let me try.
Hyvää päivää sinne myös sinulle.
Hyvä päivä.
Mitä kuuluu?
And mitä kuuluu?
Mitä kuuluu? Minulle kuuluu hyvä, kiitos.
Hyvä, Kate.
Oh, it's called Pihlaja. It means the rowan, and it's the national tree of Finland. So I'm very proud of my last name.
Wow.
You're very Finnish.
What does that national tree look like? Now I'm intrigued.
It's the one with like orange small berries in it. You might have that in Norway as well.
Yeah.
Rönn in Swedish.
Yes. Rönn. What is it in Norwegian? Is it wrong? I think so.
You must pronounce it differently, but yeah. That's my Finnish-Swedish accent there.
But I like to know, about the tree, because for me, Finland is like the country of all the lakes, right? So knowing that you actually have a sort of national tree is in itself quite interesting. But we're not here to talk about trees. We're here to talk about you, Sirte, and you, you are, I would say probably, in my opinion, at least, one of the CX people in Finland that I have heard the most about and also seen. You're out there on LinkedIn. You do a lot of stuff. I'm going to try to pronounce the Sirte.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's like an analysis of the state of the maturity of CX.
That's called benchmark. Yeah.
Yeah. And you are also quite familiar with AI and what's happening in the sphere of AI in the CX sort of universe. So we're really, really excited to have you on as our guest today. So before we sort of get going on the usual questions, how about just a brief introduction on your, like, what are you doing? Who are you? What do we need? What's the need to know about Sirte?
Well, I like to call myself nowadays the AI whisperer, because I'm trying to, stay on top of the things. And that's really, really, that's almost as exhausting as your experience this morning in SATS, because like, the news just keep flowing and it's crazy. So, but really to try to make people understand what it means for them, and not just talk about this and that LLM model coming out and all of that. I really want to help people and guide their AI-driven transformation and help them develop human-centric business models and these CX and AI governance frameworks and all of that. So putting all of that knowledge into practice, because even in Finland, I think at the moment we are not quite there yet that we could say that we are, the foremost country in Europe to be doing stuff in AI, even if we have like silo AI and all of these guys. The other part of what I'm doing is of course like I'm sort of like a nerd on one side talking about this AI stuff, and then the other side of me is very much about creativity and customer experience, human centricity. I do Lego Serious Play, for instance, because I want to do things differently and help companies innovate things, think like I had a customer who said once to me that you're taking the customer out of the box.
Yeah.
So out of the box thinking in that sense.
And I do know that you gave a great workshop at the Women in CX in London a couple of years ago with Lego. So, I mean, rumor has it was awesome. I unfortunately missed it. I was there, but I missed it. But hopefully I'm going to get the chance again. But I love that. And I love that you make it practical, you make it a practical approach. So taking the customer out of the box. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know where it's going then, but hopefully somewhere nice and cozy and where they're really making all like fun stuff at that. Besides my company, what I'm doing in Sirte is one thing, and then a big part of my life is also helping like CXPA grow here in Finland. So that's been my sort of hobby for the last.
For reference, that's customer experience.
2010, 11, and in 2013 we started running our own events here in Finland. So it's been a big
CXPA. I just need to mention CXPA is the Customer Experience Professionals Association. So it's originally from the US, but it's spreading, and obviously you have a central role in it.
Yeah, I was one of the founding members actually for the CXPA. I remember back in the day we had a meeting in I think Boston, and then met with some crazy people who wanted to put this CX into motion as a discipline of by itself. Looking for other people who would be thinking in the same way. And at that time, I was probably the only person in Finland having customer and experience, the words one after the other in my business card. Yeah. Sirte was the first customer experience design agency, and I founded it in 2010 already.
Have a legend, Joanna.
But I've been doing like this customer-centric stuff already, like for over 25 years. I'm nearing the 30, but don't tell anybody. Because it's always been, my background is in journalism. So I used to work for the Finnish broadcasting company, and then did some radio shows also, and also like all kinds of different media. I've also visited like the British BBC, Radio France Internationale, working for those. I've always been thinking about audiences and who's really there to get to enjoy all of this great stuff that we're putting out there. So customers, maybe they haven't been talked or referred to as customers as such, but rather like the audience has always been very close to my heart, I would say.
Yeah, the humans, right?
Yeah. And I created one of the first intranets in Finland. Actually, I think it was the second one, but we won all the prizes after, so I was quite happy to do that. Yeah, been working for Accenture and Tietoevry. Well, it wasn't called that back in the day, but it was called Visual Systems. But yeah.
It's very impressive, and you're definitely a perfect guest for us and for our listeners. So, yeah, very excited to have you. So a warm welcome.
Absolutely, Sirte. And Sirte, I'm so happy that you touched on the creativity part, because I think that's what I have often connected you with. And you've definitely inspired me down the lane with the Lego. And it's such an amazing tool to bring into workshops for creating creativity. So, and it's good to hear that you're still doing that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I
never get too old for Lego.
No. And our next question, and you've already touched on it, because it is what is capturing your attention the most now in the customer experience world. So I gather it's probably AI. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering if you could unpick that a little bit and tell us a little bit what is going on and how are companies embracing the challenges of AI, as you can see.
Certainly. I'm not talking about AI, in generic terms as such, but rather specifically focusing on what it means for CX professionals and how you can leverage AI or create better customer experiences and better employee experiences. Because fundamentally, I think that at the moment, all of these big companies, they are talking too much or putting too much of an emphasis on how to sell more, sell faster, make more these things more efficient, whereas we should be talking about also the kind of what we're gaining out of that how can we maybe give better customer experiences and be more there for our customers. So definitely a human-centric side to it as well. So yeah, I think that the thing that I have been mostly talking about is, on the other hand, very technological in the sense that I've been talking about machine customers, digital assistants. But the thing that I think that what kind of intrigues me in that part is that we're talking about convenience. How do we leverage AI to give more convenience to our customers? People are lazy, lazy by definition. So if I can have somebody or something, I don't know if we should call them things or because they have personalities, you can create a whole personality for your digital assistant. So therefore, I've grown to really close to my digital assistants in that sense, that they all have their own names and they try to, cheer me up if they feel that I'm a little bit down in the day or something like that. But anyhow, so I can put them and do shopping for me. I can, ask them to do all kinds of, like if I were to, I could also have like business negotiations if I were to do something in B2B, but at the moment they're just more like for my personal productivity, like work productivity related stuff that I'm using my own digital assistants. But then as a whole, I think that the machine customers are, and this whole concept of agentic AI that is very much on top of everybody's minds at the moment is about how we're reshaping how businesses must think about customers and how they must make these customer journeys, manage them in a different way so that they can and design the experience in a new way so that they can actually cater for these digital entities and not stand in the way of making convenient everyday lives for their own human customers.
Yeah. So I have two immediate questions.
Okay, just two.
And we're already no, I have a million, but I have two. The first one is I would love to hear more about which ones you use, just because to put some names out there to people, because I think we have listeners who probably are at a quite high level and using this already, but at the same time, I do believe we have listeners who are scratching their head when we talk about this. And so sort of if you can exemplify and tell us a little bit about how you use them and what you use them for. So that's the question one. And also, when you're done that, I would love to hear, because I see what you're saying about companies need to adapt so that they can facilitate for a good experience for the digital assistants, right? So that it'll work seamlessly. But I'm thinking, I want your take on what industries are going to be first out, because I'm in the real estate industry and I do not believe that anyone is ready at this point to buy a new home and using a digital assistant to do that for them. They will use the digital assistant to help them making the decision, So, I think sometimes when we're, and sorry to take so long in explaining this, but I'm really bad at being short. But I'm just thinking, I have experience from telecom and I can see a very, very good fit, wanting to buy a mobile subscription using a digital assistant, but then buying a home using a digital assistant is different, or buying a car, the big life-changing things that we do. So, if you can sort of, do you follow me? And if you can try to sort of enlighten me a little bit on that, that would be
sure. To address firstly, maybe shortly, your long and winding question so that I can still keep it maybe on top of my head. Yeah, I think that you're totally right there, that there are certain things that require more of the human input. But to begin with, anyhow, nobody's going to trust these machine customers so as to put them on the spot and have them, purchase things for me if they are something that requires some kind of real pondering about that should I buy this or that in that sense. And I'm talking right away is like during the first quarter. But this might change during this year still. So as these things evolve in the sense that at the moment, I think that what OpenAI is putting out with their AI agent called the Operator, which is a browser-based agent, AI agent, they're a little bit like doing this showcase out of it, let's say. They have integration partners, so they have integrated their operator with specific like shopping and restaurants and all of these different partners. And what they're doing there is that they're making sure that these counterparts are ready to serve these digital agents. Whereas even in their own demo, what we saw was that when you went out then for a normal normal provider, they even had themselves some problems getting into contact. That is definitely, there are definitely these barriers to these machine customers even making it to the doorstep of different service providers as such. And the other thing is that customers are not willing to give their credit cards and their IDs and all of that information, but they rather want to take the control over the agent and input all of this data themselves, so that the agents that don't just go berserk and buy stuff all over the place. But I think that is something that is going to change, and it should change quite soon, because it doesn't make any sense firstly for the machine customers to use human computer interfaces that have been created for us to be able to click and point stuff to our computers, or even to talk to our computers. But it's rather something that machines should be doing between themselves underneath, like this layer or surface in the background. And I don't want to look at paint drying while the operator or the browser agent is doing its thing on the browser. I just want to give them a task and have them come back to me when it's done. So that's one thing there. I'm losing my maybe thought here already. Train of thought here already, because there's so many things. The other thing is that I don't think that I must mention here, because it takes a lot of compute for them to do it this way. Energy. So it's not energy efficient to do it this way. So another reason for the agentic AI to go through the kind of way where we are not looking at this. But the reason why anyhow they are doing OpenAI and Anthropic and all of these guys, Google, are doing this way right now, is to just show to us as consumers, as customers, that this is what the agents are doing, so that we'll kind of grow into the concept, and then we can let go and have them do their thing. And then maybe buy that house for us, or something more expensive.
Could I ask you a question here?
Sure, that will be the third one to respond.
I know, but it's directly connected to the machine customer, because
and it's our podcast, so we ask.
So you can do whatever you do.
It's just let's just go with the flow on this one. I feel we have the type of guest today that Joanna, just take it away.
Yeah, thank you. No, because I've been reflecting on this machine customer. I think I read Forrester gave out that 89% of B2B customers are already using a machine or OpenAI or OpenAI in some form or another in their purchase decision making. And I've been thinking a little bit about these machine customers. So what does this mean? And one obvious thing that I sort of see is that, for example, if you use ChatGPT and you ask them, when we use Google, we do very, very simple searches. But when we do ChatGPT, we do quite complicated. We can do quite complicated searches. So you can say, can you help me to locate and then compare the different products against these different variables from different companies? And in my head, that is a machine customer. That is like a task we are giving to a machine customer to go out and then browse across the different, for example, websites. And that demands something new of a company that maybe has had a website that is purely more inspirational or very nice, because it demands that there's a lot more information that can be found and sourced and verified and evaluated of a machine customer. So one of like the very practical use cases I see for businesses is that they need to understand their jobs to be done to customers, so that they are updating, and their knowledge base that's actually available for machine customers is hugely updated, so that that's like one of am I correct?
Okay, I lost your question. I must have lost your question there already. Sorry. Can you just try again to put it very concisely?
Yeah. So the machine customer, I believe, will help make decisions by, for example, gathering much more detailed information from different websites, for example. And
information
does that mean that companies today need to ensure that they have enough data available on their websites so that machine customers can take
informed decisions,
good
based on that.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That is, it is not going to be just a technical question. Whereas I say that they should open their APIs or give some kind of metadata or whatever the technical solution is to better serve these machine customers is one thing. But the other thing is definitely a marketing perspective, that what kind of information do you give out? And therefore, it is very important to understand that what are the things that, because you can't know whether from now on, whether the kind of person who's accessing your website, whether he or she is a human or a machine customer.
Yeah.
So therefore, you should pay special attention to the search. If you have an internal website, internal search, that what are the things that people are searching for, because that and that they can't find information or the kind of data for. And that has, of course, always been the thing that you should have been following that and looking at your keywords and your long tails and all of that. But now it becomes even more crucial, more critical that these agents are roaming the internets and looking for data and they, whereas I have been maybe able to select kind of ask offers from 3 different competitive service providers. These agents, they have no problem whatsoever to ask 50 concurrently. So in that case, if you can't find that information, or if you're on a chat, God forbid us having those machine customers talk to any customer service representative, but if they do, then if you are doing this traditional asynchronous service, you're doing a kind of disfavor for yourself, because if you let a machine customer hang for 10 to 15 minutes, which is currently what they do very often because they're servicing many customers at the same time, they will have looked at the 49 other competitors at that same second.
Yeah.
And you're lost. You have totally lost the game by that time.
Exactly.
So one thing is to kind of either kind of get more content to your website so that the current one. Think about it in this way, maybe. Historically, we have come to understand that we need to design our websites with mobile first kind of idea nowadays, that you have to optimize for mobile. Now it's a completely same thing here, that you need to optimize for AI. And in the same sense as we have been doing, SEO, we need to do AIO now, so that they will find you and relevant information.
The great thing is that you can ask AI to help you to do that, right? AI knows how it wants you to do your website. So we have our website, Joanna, we have the cxpod.no, so we might as well just go on to ChatGPT or Copilot and ask, how can we make this page better, so that it's better for AI engines to find it and
can you do it, please?
Yeah, and can you please do it, right? So I'm going to move us on and a little sort of back on track, but it's going to be a twist on one of our standard questions, because Sirte and I'm totally on fire in my head right now, because there's so many, my brain is working overload.
Sorry, yes, before you do, I didn't answer your question about the digital assistants, the first one you asked me. So maybe I'll get back to you, just in case somebody is listening to this podcast and they want to know.
Digital assistants. Let's have a very good
example, and maybe I can take it very shortly here. But what we did last year is that we created this digital assistant called Assi, and she was representing this imaginary family called the Vuononlehto family, with 2 very busy consultants as the family heads, and with 2 small children. And we went to 40 different Finnish companies and did use cases and tested them against. It's sort of like we do the same benchmark, but in this case it was more like almost a mystery shopping or service safari kind of thing, where we were looking at these service providers from a machine customers or digital assistants perspective. What kind of experience would they get from those use cases? They were looking for, to book a dentist appointment for somebody who's afraid of dentists, or for a insurance for a small 7-year-old kid, buying a phone, as you said, buying some kind of robotic vacuum cleaners, and whatever we had on top of our minds at the moment. We did this with a fellow AI expert, Risto Matti. Partanen from Elisa. So anyhow, we had her go to these service providers on their chat channel and on their email channel, because at that time voice wasn't so good yet with AI to even try out. But now we are actually definitely working on doing a similar kind of exercise on the voice channel. But anyhow, so she would then go send this. She had access to her own emails, and she could back and forth have these email conversations. She could go on the chats to discuss with real chat like agents, human agents, and have all these conversations and find the information for us or the Fauna-Lehti family, and then we would also ask both from her afterwards that what was the experience like for her. We had a specific kind of criteria that she was then evaluating against. And then we asked also the CSRs, customer service representatives, that how did they feel, and sales personnel that we contacted, that how did they feel about these encounters with the AI. And it was really interesting to hear their part, because they said that, yeah, it was great, and it felt absolutely like being in contact with a normal person, and oh, I didn't even notice, and things like that. This doesn't surprise me at all, because we see all kinds of things here nowadays, so, during my career. So it was a really eye-opening thing. The main insight from that was that, firstly, we couldn't have our assistant do any kind of, online shopping or access anything if we hadn't helped her out, besides the email channel, because that one worked out quite well. But on the chat, because there was a huge minefield of all kinds of usability issues for her before she would even get to that human agent to be talking with them. And the main thing here was that actually you couldn't get as a human person, human customer on those websites to have this conversation either, because it was like having these stupid, traditional chatbots, who everybody loves and hates at the same time. And then all kinds of weird kinds of navigation systems where you would need to know where to go to even start the chat. And that's really something that we create this kind of a playbook online. So you can go to machinecustomers.fi to pick that up. It's completely free of charge to download there if you're interested in knowing more about this piece of research and the findings that we kind of like, we put out there a list of tips that do this, don't do this,
Yeah.
So
we'll make sure to leave a link for that.
That's kind of a digital assistant, for instance, that is
very
really
interesting,
doing stuff.
And I'm not surprised that, if humans have problem with the chatbots, then the digital assistant will as well.
Yeah.
I have questions are just piling up in my head right now, but this is a short one. It's a yes and no. So
okay.
Is for customer support, then is AI more polite to talk to than a human, you think?
Depends on the personality.
Yeah.
We created for Assi to become this very enjoyable person who was fluent in Finnish, and she would have all these conversations. We specifically made it so that she would be a captivating personality, so that would not be no barriers with that. But if somebody were to make them a spitting image of themselves, grumpy in the morning and whatnot, probably they would get the same level of service that they would get as.
Good point.
Yeah, because this is all going to the voice channel now. Even like all of this point and clicking is going away now. So as a human agent, you would not even, maybe I identify them as real, whether they are real like human customers or these agentic customers. So that would be reflected probably in the service.
It was just my little hope there that we would be more polite to each other, because I do know, as much as I really care about the customer, I also know that customer service get beaten up every single day by angry customers.
Sure.
So, but that's a sidetrack. I'm going to bring us a little bit back on track with the next question. It's a take on one of the standard questions. So we do care and talk and engage a lot in the voice of the customer programs and gathering data to transform it into insights so that we can operationalize improvements. And I mean, we've touched a little bit about, how can we improve our websites to be more AI friendly and so on. But how do you see sort of us fetching and using insights then with AI being so present in everything we do? Are we going to stop talking to humans? Like, what's your take on this voice of the customer programs, or just, sort of understanding your customers, whether it's an AI assistant or human? How please share your ideas on this.
Well, I think that it's not a bad thing that we have AI now to help us, especially for the kind of clients like telcos and who have a massive amount of customers. And equally great amount of that customer feedback to go through. So every little thing that helps counts, and AI is a great helper here in going through that amount of data that you would never be able to categorize and do the sentiment analysis and all of that if you didn't have these tools. Or maybe some companies did that, but they would have to then have like loads and loads of resources, people to do that. So we are partnered with Lumoa in this, that they have this great tool that helps customers really focus their time on finding the kind of insights from that customer feedback instead of acting on it. I've always said, I was probably one of the first here in Finland to talk about voice of customer programs, and really everybody else was talking about measuring CX, but I wanted to talk about voice of customer. And there's a big difference, at least I think mentally, whether you're talking about the one or the other. So I think that measuring CX is quite easy and straightforward, and you have like so many tools for that. But then really to do something with the data that you have gathered requires for you to actually put your mind onto it, to understand what your customers are saying and actually listening with big like Mickey Mouse eyes almost to what they are saying, and then doing like the connection back to your customers, that it's not just yes, we'll it's not a check in a box that kind of exercise in that sense, but you should rather then gather the insights, have the processes in place and the roles to take care of these whatever activities that means that you have to start developing in order to get back to whatever the customer insight has been, and then close the loop with your customers that, hey, we have actually acted on your input. And because customers will feel even more valued when they hear that, okay, my voice had some kind of like
impact,
effect on how this business is doing.
And you can use AI for that even, right? To provide the feedback back to the customer. And what I love, I just have to say this, I love that you mentioned Lumoa, because Lumoa is now acquired and a part of Netigate, and Netigate is actually our sponsor. So it's great to hear that even without instructing you to do so, you're actually recommending our sponsor, which is great for them and great for us.
They're great guys, so nothing.
Yeah, and my experience with Lumoa as well, this is the first sort of text analysis or open-end comments analysis tool that I ever used, using AI to do sentiment analysis and then sort of categorizing all the feedback and tying it up to the score and actually providing us with very specific sort of, if you fix this problem, then your NPS is going to increase by approximately this much. So, and they were already doing this like 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I think especially valuable, coming back to your question about AI and voice of customer, in the sense that we used to have that problem that speaking Finnish, all of the customer feedback would be also in Finnish or Swedish, or, but any of these like minority languages that, the big like CX tools would not support as such. So now that we have AI, it doesn't really matter in what language the customer feedback comes in, because we can translate it almost instantly and get at least a notion about what they're saying in their feedback, even if it's not, 100% correct every time. But with these tools coming from Finland, they are pretty good at the Finnish as well, I'd say. And then other thing I wanted to maybe say here too is that whenever you're doing a voice of customer, it should be connected to your business goals. And it's so important that you're actually making the leadership teams and the kind of people who are kind of interested in these kinds of things, that you align your CX data with your KPIs that you have, because it doesn't matter how many CX development activities you put into motion if people are being kind of what they are doing in their everyday lives as employees is not measured by how they are giving or creating better customer experiences for their customers. So align those CX goals and those KPIs, and then empower these employees also to act on this insight in real time. That's one thing that is not always considered, that, hey, there are things that you can do right away. This real time kind of part of the voice of customer programs is often overlooked. Because you can still do things when your customer is still sitting in the restaurant or in your, roaming the store if they have given you some kind of input. So you should definitely work on that.
There's another point that I've been reflecting over, in Norway or in the Nordics, we have a huge amount of small to medium-sized businesses. We talked about how, for example, voice of customer tools are fantastic for the large telecoms or businesses that have a lot of customers. I wonder whether the fact that now the AI capability within voice of the customer makes it a much more usable tool for everybody. So, for example, business to business, they have so much dialogue with their customers and therefore data, but it comes in not necessarily through forms of surveys, but more the everyday listening posts, as we talk about, the email communication, the telephone calls, all of that. And as much as the large telecos want to be able to understand their customers and get insights that they can act on. And I wonder the fact that AI now is a part of a voice of customer tool, that this makes it now much more scalable for many types of companies. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Sid.
Well, I think that these new tools make it possible for you that it doesn't need to be necessarily customer feedback data, but you can plug in different kinds of feeds and different data sources. So one source might, for instance, be whatever your customer service representatives are hearing over the phone. You can now use AI to transcribe all of that. And it's not necessarily used as such because it doesn't make any sense to have, and they have like loads and loads of spelling errors and all of that, but that's not the issue there. It's more important to have those summaries made out of those transcriptions. So that's another way. Also, sales people are famous for not being so, how would I say it, keen on writing those notes after those sessions that they have had on those listening posts. But now, they can just put on their AI note taker and have everything transcribed for them and summarized and even fed back to CRM systems. So we live in a totally different world in that sense, that there's so much of data that's just pouring to us,
and
from these different
it's
channels.
life-changing. I have to say, I went to, so by the time this episode is out, it's going to be a few weeks or probably months ago, but I went to, so I'm working with diversity and inclusion as well. And yesterday I was at this conference where we talked about how we can ensure that more people, especially, this is obviously from a Norwegian perspective, but how we can ensure that as many people who are within the age of being able to work are actually working in the future, because we have so many older people and they're going to require so much more capacity, and we don't have the amount of people, and especially if you consider everyone who is outside of a job right now due to different reasons. And what we saw is that when back in the old times you could get a job, if you didn't have an education, you could still sort of learn your way through building houses or doing certain types of work were available to you even if you didn't have an education. But now there are so many restrictions and certifications that you need to have to be able to do almost any kind of job. And if you have, for instance, that if you're dyslexic or if you have problems reading, if you're blind, and making sure and using AI tools to have people maybe do their exams verbally instead of in writing, and also helping salespeople make their notes for them instead of, right? So that's where I sort of connected. And it's just, there's so much potential now where we cannot just make it easier for us to be consumers and, from a capitalistic point of view, but we can actually ensure that more people have, a dignified way of living their lives because they can be included. And it's just, so I think, and we started off, Joanna, and I was really skeptical and a little bit afraid of this AI train that was coming really, really fast at us. But the more I learn about it, and I do hope that we're providing some sort of learnings for our listeners as well, because there is so many opportunities. And, every day I learn something new, and it's just great if we can use it to make the world a better place. And then hopefully the ones who are trying to use it to make the world
As a great example about that, I definitely, on the inclusivity and that part is, I was sitting as a judge on the Elisa AI Vision Challenge, and the winning contestant in the category for professionals was a AI tool or service that would help like memory sick person, like a mother who
with Alzheimer or
some kind of this kind that she didn't. This tool would help her remember things. So all of the conversations that she would have with different kinds of doctors or also like municipal authorities or all of these different kinds of service providers would be stored into this AI system that would then remind her of that, like, have you taken your medicine, or have you discussed already this thing with your bank, or whatever that she needed to be done. So I think that's a good example of how we can use AI for the good of people. And of course, this same service could be then used for like people who don't speak the language, all of this.
And also we see, I mean, and we've talked about this before as well, that, we a lot of the times we refer to age when we talk about maturity level within digitalization, right? But with AI, you can actually sort of, you can remove that whole factor, because you can make the AI so clever that it's like talking to a person. So no matter if you're old or young, but if you're not very technical or very digital of nature, you can still use these tools too. So it's great. And from a human perspective, and or a human-centric perspective, like we like to talk a lot about, it's just amazing how this is happening in front of our eyes, really.
Yeah. And talking about amazing things, I think, Sirte, we would love to ask you a question. What is the top achievement from customer experience or employee experience, human experience, that has made you most proud during your career, your long career?
Yeah.
I was afraid you'd have the time to ask that one. Well, I don't know. I've been like recognized with like all these kinds of like CX thought leaders and CX influencer, top 25, this and that. And by the way, now the CX network decided to give me this top 25 CX leaders to follow in AI. But I don't know. I think that like really the biggest achievement is something that when I can do stuff with others and cooperate to make this a better place, in the sense that the whole point of me bringing CXPA into Finland was to have people kind of gather around together to do stuff, like make this like world a better place in that sense. I mean, it has grown and we have established it in Finland so that there's loads and loads of followers, and we have like guests just come to our events, and it's a thriving network and people are connecting through that. And those are all of the things that I wanted to achieve with this, is that making those connections between, not necessarily through CXPA events, but between people in that sense. So that was one of the kind of big things. I must say that in 2020 and 2021, when we were in the midst of the COVID period, we also did this global CX days twice, and we got like all of the biggest CX stars to join us and do together. Like we brought together the whole world. I mean, we had thousands and thousands of people who joined those events. I felt really like warm in my heart that we could do something like that in the midst of all of that negativeness that we had all around us. So that was something that I really, really keen on doing. And that grew really into a network of people. Like, so I have like 20 to 40 people in different kinds of CX, international CX networks that I'm still in daily connection with. We wrote 3 books with them, global bestsellers, all of them. But I mean, the whole point, we did like CX reports through CX Cares, for instance. So it was to give ideas to people within that time period, that how can you, for instance, in travel business, because that was the worst maybe of all, that it was totally down, that how can you do things differently, and giving ideas and interviewing people in that domain that said, hey, we can still do something. We don't need to, put everything down. Trying to help people, I think is what I'm most proud of, because CX is, after all, it's all about people, and helping businesses to create better customer experiences is the thing that our kind of purpose for my company even is we want to make people happy. So coming from the country that is the happiest country on earth for the 7th year in a row, I have to say something like this, but I really mean it. It's not just something that
it really shines through. And what I love is, like, I'm about to say, like, we should get her on the pod every time. She should just. But the thing, and this is, I'm not surprised that being nominated this and having this award there and doing this and that. I'm not surprised that what you actually pull out of your what you've done is the ability to help and collaborate with people, also facilitating for people to meet and collaborate together. It's great. And I just have to say, because we unfortunately have to round off, but from my perspective, and Joanna, you'll have time to provide yours, but I just have to say I'm so grateful that we have people like you, Sirte, working with AI and being an influencer within the field, because that sure as hell makes me a lot less worried when it comes to letting AI slowly take over so much of the stuff that we're doing by humans today. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. We're going to leave links to both your reports and your work and your LinkedIn profile as well in the show notes. So yeah, for me, that's, I just really, really had to say that I'm so calm now, knowing that there are people like you out there influencing the way AI is going to help our lives.
Yeah. Thank you. You see, my lip is doing that thing. Although I'm smiling, it's like I'm starting to cry here soon. But yeah,
no crying.
It's about people. It's human connection and people. So we need to do everything in our power to help that happen.
Amazing. We love you, Sirte. So please don't make it too long before you come back again. And absolutely great to have you as a guest on the pod. And I hope we get to catch up in person again in not too distant future. That would be great.
We definitely will. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's been a great pleasure to have this discussion.
Yeah. So thank you. And to all of our listeners, thank you for listening. Check out Sirte, go ahead and do it straight away. Have your AI assistant check her out if you want. You've been listening to the CX Pod. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to the CX Pod. If you want to reach us, you can always find us on LinkedIn, and please remember to follow us on Spotify and leave a review of what you think.